Hey guys, this is Matt Invictus. Most of you know that I'm a pretty big Dick Grayson fan. He's at the moment my second favorite superhero of all time. But that said, I can admit that for a pretty long time now, DC has had serious problems with the Nightwing character. Ever since Chuck Dixon's run way back, there hasn't really been a Nightwing comic series that's been better than mediocre. He's just been stuck in like this unending loop of mediocrity. The best stories featuring Dick Grayson for the last I don't know 15 years or so have been the ones where he's something other than Nightwing, like when he was Batman. And that's not that there's anything wrong with the Nightwing identity. Like pretty much everyone's fine with Nightwing identity. It's a decent premise. There's nothing wrong with the identity in premise. It's just that DC consistently does not know what to do with it. So Nightwing, fine concept. It's just that DC, they don't know how to make it interesting. So yeah, after he stopped being Batman, you had the New 52 Nightwing series, which was painfully mediocre. I don't think there's a single story arc in that run that I think is worth reading. And then you had Grayson after that, which was an improvement. Most people agree that Grayson was like a step in the right direction for the character. And then Rebirth came along. They put him back in the Nightwing role, and then you had Tim Seeley's run, which had its moments. It had one or two decent arcs. It had some good single issues, but overall, it still fell into that pit of mediocrity because the I know the writers and editors of DC, mostly the editors, I think they just don't have any good ideas for this character. Like the thing that really screwed over Rebirth Nightwing is that they put him back in Bloodhaven, which is like the city he worked in for I think most of the Chuck Dixon run, and it was fine there. They did some good stuff with it there. They made it like I guess like the one city in America that was like shadier and that was a bigger shithole than Gotham was. And then they like had him like be a cop, so it was like balancing being like a superhero and a real life cop. So Dixon's run handled Bloodhaven fine, but here in the Rebirth books, they've turned it into like, I don't know, an Atlantic City stand-in where it's like all the it's not as shady as Gotham, and they got these plot lines involving like corrupt casino owners and stuff, and just none of it's interesting. Having him in this city is not bringing anything to the character. It's not giving us interesting storylines. I guess they're trying to be like a bit more topical and relevant, but it's not doing any good. It's so yeah, Bloodhaven sucks, and also I think that the supporting characters in these in Rebirth Nightwing also hold back the books because pretty much everyone knows that like Dick Grayson is at his best when he gets to interact with other heroes, whether it's the Batman, the Bat Family, or the Titans. He's by far at his best when he gets to interact with other heroes, and coincidentally, the best Nightwing issues are the ones where he gets to interact with other heroes, whether it's Robin or Superman or Wally West. Not so much Batgirl, just because Batgirl sucks right now and she ruins everything she's in. But every other time he has to interact with another superhero, it's usually a highlight of his series. But the supporting characters they're trying to give him, the original supporting characters trying to give him, always suck. Like the current run is written by Sam Humphries. It's only like 3 or 4 issues in. It's back to I think New 52 levels of mediocre. But the one thing I really do like about this run is that they pretty much scrapped all the supporting cast introduced in Tim Seeley's run, because they were, with the exception of Raptor, who was a villain, they were all horrible. They gave Dick Grayson like this blue-haired girlfriend who was like a former supervillain. She was terrible. She was probably even worse than Batgirl was. So and to be fair, I haven't read the last couple issues of Seeley's run, so I don't know what happened to these supporting characters. They could be like dead for all I know. But I'm glad that this current run has decided to scrap them. But unfortunately, it made the same mistake of trying to give him more original supporting characters. The villain of this arc is completely uninteresting and generic, and then there's like this dude who's like an anthropomorphic shark who I don't know, I guess it's supposed to be a supporting long time a supporting character. I don't know. That's just weird. So and I've just read the latest issue, number 38. I think painfully bland. There's nothing. The thing about this run is that there's nothing too horrible about it. It's just that it's painfully mediocre. There's just nothing to like about it. Like Dick Grayson's character isn't that good. The story isn't that good. The writing isn't that good. The supporting cast isn't good. There's just nothing I can point to about this run and say it does really well. Not even the art. Even the art is painfully mediocre. So that's the thing with all these Nightwing runs. It's not like there's some of the worst comics ever. There's much worse stuff out there, but it's hard to find an element about these stories that you can point to and say it does that really well. And this latest issue, it portrays Dick Grayson as overly weak and ineffectual, and I get it. Heroes have to, regardless of what some Hollywood celebrities will say, action heroes need to face adversity and some level of violence inflicted onto them in order to be compelling. But it's just that, Dick Grayson, he just hasn't had enough accomplishments as of late to make the adversity he faces really pay off. He's just feels like a weak punching bag, not a very effective hero, and he should be an effective hero because he's a lot more important than DC gives him credit for. He's insanely popular, insanely well known, so he should be a lot more than just another street level hero who gets beaten up more than they get to beat up, more than they beat other people up. The only thing about this latest issue that anyone really seems to remember is this moment where he has to sneak into this building, and to do it he pretends to be a male stripper. And so they got him dancing in his underwear, looking super uncomfortable. That's the only moment in this. That's the only thing anyone takes away from this issue. And it's I try not to ever get offended about sex in entertainment, even when it's not well done, because even at its worst, it's just the writers or whatever just trying to make the story a little more bearable, a little entertaining. So there's nothing really insidious about it. But DC, they have some issues with Dick Grayson's sexuality, because most people find his character attractive. That's common knowledge. He's a sex symbol, but for some reason they just don't know how to handle his. They shouldn't be having as much trouble with this as they are, because you got Grayson, where the sexy scenes in that range from good to incredibly awkward and creepy, and then Seeley's Nightwing run. I think in response to the criticisms, they pretty much dialed back the sex big time. There were very few moments in that where you could point to and say Dick Grayson looks really, really sexy there. And then you got that Humphreys run, and then they're back to the kind of awkward stuff. And it's I guess they feel like if they're going to put sexual sexy stuff into the book, they have to make it a joke, or else it's offensive or problematic or whatever. And I'm no, by making it awkward, you're only making it worse. There's nothing wrong with fan service. There's nothing wrong with making a character look sexy for the sake of it. So you don't have to do this whole awkward comedic thing with it. Just get a good artist, make them conventionally attractive, and then give them a gratuitous sex scene or whatever every once in a while. You don't need to do this awkward stuff. You're only making it worse. But so yeah, not a great run. Again, the Rebirth Nightwing hasn't been all bad. I think the very first arc with the Raptor as the villain was readable. There were a couple single issues, like his team up with Superman, his team up with Wally West. The arc where he teamed up with Damian was okay. So it's not all bad. It's just that as a whole, it fails to really establish a Nightwing identity as something great. And to be fair, even in the Dixon run, which I do really like, even that I don't think lived up to, even that didn't fulfill all the potential it had. So, and I don't think that Nightwing's a dead end. I don't think that he has to be something other than Nightwing in order to really shine. I think that the company just needs to get their shit together, because this is an easy fix. Just take him out of Bloodhaven, have what's his name, Toxin, drop a toxin on Bloodhaven again, just level the city. That actually happened. They actually did blow up Bloodhaven once. Do that again. Have him like a tournament's like a globetrotter again. Have him like, you know, go all over the world, fighting villains all over the world, and just have him interact with lots of other heroes along the way. Just like have him, you know, team up with like, you know, Superman, Titans, all the Batman characters except for Batgirl, and with a good writer. I think that right there is just all the premise you need for a good Nightwing series, and I hope that we do get something like that someday, instead of the cycle of mediocre Nightwing run, and then Dick Grayson becomes something else, gets a million times better, and then they stick him back in the Nightwing role, and he becomes mediocre again. I'm sick of that. Just be more invested in him. DC is not as invested in Dick Grayson as they should be, even though he's insanely popular, insanely well known. They just refuse to see his potential. So those are all my thoughts. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe. Good night, everybody.